Hi, welcome to today's topic. Today let us talk about Hitler's leadership and the collapse of Nazi Germany, so let us begin. Adolf Hitler, the leader of Nazi Germany from 1934 to 1945, is one of the most infamous figures in history, due to his role in instigating World War II and the Holocaust. His leadership ultimately resulted in Germany's defeat in the war. The various aspects of his life, rise to power, and the factors contributing to his downfall. Adolf Hitler's life and leadership in Nazi Germany are subjects of intense historical scrutiny. His actions, policies, and decisions had far-reaching consequences, most notably in World War II, which led to unprecedented destruction and loss of life. Understanding Hitler's rise and eventual fall is crucial in comprehending this pivotal period in history. Early life and background. Adolf Hitler was born on April 20, 1889, in Braunau am Inn, Austria-Hungary. His early life was marked by various struggles and experiences that would shape his worldview and political beliefs. Childhood and family. Hitler's father, Alois Hitler, was a stern and abusive man, while his mother, Clara Hitler, was a gentle and caring woman. Adolf had several siblings, although only his younger sister, Paula, survived past childhood. The young Hitler displayed artistic talent but struggled academically. He had aspirations of becoming a painter but was twice rejected from the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna. Experiences in Vienna. In his late teens and early 20s, Hitler lived in Vienna, where he was exposed to various ideological and political influences. He developed strong nationalist and anti-Semitic views, which would become central to his later political career. Hitler's rise to power. Hitler's ascent to political power in Germany was a complex process influenced by several key factors. Role in World War I. During World War I, Hitler served as a soldier in the German army. He was twice awarded the Iron Cross for bravery. This period of his life not only exposed him to nationalist fervor but also deepened his resentment towards the Treaty of Versailles, which imposed harsh terms on Germany after the war. Founding the Nazi Party. In 1919, Hitler joined the German Workers' Party, which he later renamed the National Socialist German Workers' Party (NSDAP), or the Nazi Party. His charismatic oratory skills and political acumen helped the party grow, attracting disaffected individuals and promoting nationalist, anti-Semitic, and authoritarian ideologies. Beer Hall Putsch. In 1923, Hitler and the NSDAP attempted a coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch in Munich. The coup failed, leading to Hitler's arrest and imprisonment. During his time in prison, he wrote Mein Kampf, outlining his political ideology and plans for the future. Legal and political maneuvering. After his release, Hitler decided to achieve power through legal means rather than revolution. He participated in elections and was appointed Chancellor of Germany on January 30, 1933, by President Paul von Hindenburg. His appointment marked the beginning of a radical transformation of Germany. Hitler's policies and leadership. As Chancellor and, later, Führer leader of Germany, Hitler implemented a range of policies that profoundly impacted the country and the world. Expansionist and militaristic policies. Hitler's foreign policy aimed at territorial expansion and the unification of ethnic Germans. The remilitarization of the Rhineland in 1936, the annexation of Austria and Sluis in 1938, and the dismemberment of Czechoslovakia in 1938 were early signs of his aggressive expansionism. The Munich Agreement in 1938, which allowed Hitler to take the Sudetenland, marked a policy of appeasement by the Western powers. Non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union. One of the most significant diplomatic moves Hitler made was the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact in 1939, a non-aggression treaty with the Soviet Union. This pact allowed Hitler to launch his invasion of Poland without fear of Soviet intervention. The secret protocols of the pact also outlined the division of Eastern Europe into Nazi and Soviet spheres of influence. The Holocaust and anti-Semitism. One of the darkest aspects of Hitler's leadership was his implementation of the Holocaust, the systematic genocide of approximately 6 million Jews and millions of other minority groups. Hitler's anti-Semitic beliefs, as outlined in Mein Kampf, played a central role in this horrific endeavor. Propaganda and totalitarian control. Hitler's regime exercised tight control over propaganda, media, and culture. Joseph Goebbels, the Reich Minister of Propaganda, played a crucial role in shaping public opinion and promoting Nazi ideology. The regime also suppressed dissent and established a totalitarian state that curtailed individual freedoms. Economic policies. Under the leadership of Hjalmar Schacht and later Hermann Göring, Hitler's government implemented economic policies that reduced unemployment and stimulated the economy. However, much of this recovery was fueled by rearmament, which was unsustainable in the long term. The outbreak of World War II. The events leading up to the outbreak of World War II were shaped by Hitler's territorial ambitions and the failure of diplomacy. Invasion of Poland. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, prompting France and the United Kingdom to declare war on Germany, marking the beginning of World War II. The swift and brutal campaign against Poland demonstrated the effectiveness of blitzkrieg, a military strategy that combined speed, surprise, and overwhelming force. Early successes and setbacks. Germany's initial successes included the occupation of Denmark and Norway, the fall of France in 1940, and the Battle of Britain. However, Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941, codenamed Operation Barbarossa, marked a significant turning point. The German military encountered fierce resistance and the harsh Russian winter, factors contributing to Hitler's defeat. As World War II progressed, multiple factors converged to undermine Hitler's leadership and ultimately lead to Germany's defeat. Overextension of resources. Hitler's ambition to conquer vast territories, including the Soviet Union and much of Europe, stretched German resources to their limits. The German military was ill-prepared for the Russian winter, and their supply lines became vulnerable and overstretched, making it difficult to sustain the war effort. Inadequate logistics. The German military faced logistical challenges in supplying its troops with the necessary equipment, ammunition, and food, particularly on the Eastern Front. This hindered their ability to maintain sustained offensives. Underestimation of the Soviet Union. Hitler miscalculated the strength and resilience of the Soviet Union. He believed that a quick victory was possible, but the Red Army's determination, vast resources, and the harsh Russian winter all contributed to Germany's defeat on the Eastern Front. Economic challenges. Germany was under economic strain throughout the war. The Nazi regime's policies, such as diverting resources to the Holocaust and slave labor, strained the economy. Additionally, Allied bombing campaigns targeted German industry, disrupting production and supply lines. Allies' industrial and numerical superiority. The Allies, particularly the United States and the Soviet Union, had greater industrial capacity and were able to produce more weapons, equipment, and supplies. This ultimately allowed them to wear down and outproduce the Axis forces. Failure of the Blitzkrieg strategy. Germany's initial successes in the war were due to the Blitzkrieg strategy, which relied on speed, surprise, and overwhelming force. However, this strategy was less effective against opponents who could absorb initial shocks and launch counter-offensives, as the Soviets did. Lack of coordination among Axis powers. The Axis powers, including Germany, Japan, and Italy, did not always coordinate their efforts effectively. The lack of a unified strategy and cooperation hindered their collective war effort. Military defeats and losses. Germany suffered significant military setbacks, such as the defeat at Stalingrad and the Battle of Kursk in the east, and the D-Day invasion in the west. These defeats weakened German forces and morale. Hitler's interference in military matters. Hitler often made strategic and tactical decisions that went against the advice of his military commanders. His meddling in military affairs, especially in the later stages of the war, hindered effective decision-making. Resistance movements and partisan warfare. Resistance movements in occupied territories and partisan warfare disrupted German control and supply lines, further undermining their efforts. Allied intelligence and code breaking. The Allies had significant success in deciphering German codes and gaining intelligence, which allowed them to anticipate German movements and strategies. Moral and ideological factors. The Holocaust and other war crimes committed by the Nazis eroded international support for Germany and bolstered the determination of the Allied powers to defeat Hitler's regime. The downfall of the Third Reich. By 1945, the situation for Nazi Germany had become untenable. The combined efforts of the Allies on the Western and Eastern fronts, along with these various factors, led to the downfall of the Third Reich. Allied advance on all fronts. In 1944, the Western Allies launched the D-Day invasion, leading to the liberation of France and the push into Germany. Simultaneously, the Soviet Union was making significant advances in the East, ultimately capturing Berlin in May 1945. Hitler's suicide. As Allied forces closed in on Berlin, Hitler realized that defeat was inevitable. On April 30, 1945, he and his wife, Eva Braun, committed suicide in their underground bunker in Berlin. Unconditional surrender. On May 7, 1945, Germany's unconditional surrender was signed, marking the official end of World War II in Europe. The war had exacted a heavy toll on Europe, with millions of lives lost and widespread destruction. Adolf Hitler's leadership of Nazi Germany and his involvement in World War II had catastrophic consequences. His rise to power and subsequent actions, such as the Holocaust, resulted in immense suffering and death. Hitler's aggressive expansionism and military miscalculations ultimately led to Germany's defeat in World War II. The factors contributing to Hitler's loss were multifaceted, encompassing military, economic, strategic, and political dimensions. Germany's overextension of resources, inadequate logistics, and underestimation of the Soviet Union weakened its position. Meanwhile, the Allies' industrial and numerical superiority, along with their coordinated efforts, played a pivotal role in bringing about Germany's downfall. Hitler's interference in military matters, resistance movements, and the Allied intelligence advantage further compounded Germany's challenges. Ultimately, moral and ideological factors, including the Holocaust and war crimes, diminished international support for Germany and strengthened the resolve of the Allied powers to defeat the Nazi regime. Hitler's suicide and the unconditional surrender of Germany in May 1945 marked the end of the Third Reich and the conclusion of a war that had reshaped the world. It is essential to study and remember this period in history to ensure that such atrocities and conflicts are not repeated.